Hey, everybody, welcome to No Reserve, which is part of the Hagerty Podcast Network. We're here to help you make sense of the enthusiast car market, whether you're buying, selling, or simply watching. Now, this was a great week. We talked about the deal of deals in an original Mazda Miata for under 15 grand, a Lincoln that's fit for Uncle Buck, and a Stutz that might have Elvis Presley history, and really one of my favorites, a Lancia Delta Integrale. I'm Larry Webster, editor of Hagerty Media.
And I'm Dave Kinney. I'm the publisher of Hagerty Price Guide.
Yeah, between the two of us, we got decades of experience buying, selling, and driving the cars we love. Plus, we're backed by the data of the Hagerty valuation tools. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Larry, let's get into it.
All right, we're recording this on Thursday, October 27th, and it's really the past week's been really interesting. First, Dave, before we get into our opening big segment, I want to talk about the Hagerty market rating because we just reported on the insider.hagerty.com site that the Hagerty market rating is down 1 point. Cars are still selling. The big news is perhaps the feeding frenzy in the car market from last spring is over. What it said in the article, Dave, that I want to talk to you about, the four macroeconomic indicators they use to come up with the market rating have gone down. That means retail sales. Gold is at its lowest point since February 2020, and the S&P 500 monthly average is back down to 2021 levels. Dave, I know you've seen this before. Tell me, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's the reason why I bought gold in February 2020, because I wanted to make sure I was buying at the market peak.
What
Yeah,
much should I buy right now, Dave? Tell me.
yeah, really, that's about it. Hey, look, the economy's facing a lot of headwinds, and we've not seen a lot of this in the car market as of yet. Although I will say there's a lot of cars. I know probably you've seen, Larry, that have topped out kind of in July and August, were the top numbers for the cars, and we're also seeing. Great example is looking at some of the online sales. We're seeing more no sales than we've seen before. So it's a headwinds market. It's still a really good market, and that could all change tomorrow. It could go up, could go down. But we got a lot of things facing our economy right now. I just saw that mortgage rates hit 7%,
7%. Yeah, yeah.
which historically is nothing, but for people who for the last 10 years have been getting 3.34% interest loans and stuff like that, it's a killer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're expecting the market rating to probably keep going down for a little bit more, or I'm expecting. Let's put it that way. I don't know what everybody else is. I'm part of that market rating. I've been downgrading the numbers since, believe it or not, August. So there you go.
Yeah, they're challenging times. I think, it's back to what every financial house will tell you. It's back to fundamentals, right? If you bought your car because you loved it and you don't need to sell it, that's great. I mean, it's you're not going to get the crazy prices that we've seen. That said, as we keep pointing out week after week, some of these cars are still fetching crazy dollars. I mean, that $200,000 912. There are two Toyota pickups that got 50 grand in the same week. When I see this, it always feels like opportunity to me because then perhaps the prices come to a level where more and more people can get into this. We have that thing we do, Dave, and you're part of this, that bull market where we make a prediction, a very scary, risky prediction about
Yep.
cars that we think will go up in value. And the whole point is not an investment. It's like, hey, you can buy these things, enjoy them, and get out. Maybe you make a little, maybe you lose a little, but the fun you got was cheap. And I still think that holds even if the market rating goes down.
Yeah, and we've got coming up. We've got a couple of interesting cars we're going to be looking at because we've got another 912 that certainly
All
didn't do
right. All right.
$200,000. So
Yep.
up,
All right.
up, up, up.
Let's
I'm
jump
giving,
right
I'm
into
get,
our opening bid segment. And you want to go
I'm
right for
giving
that
away the
912.
goods. I'm giving away the goods. All
Yeah, all
right.
right. Opening bid, Dave. You want to look at this 912 that sold on Bring a Trailer last week. It was a 66 912 and it sold for 73,500. Why should we care?
Well, I think it had a lot going for it. Okay, it's aga blue, which is a great color. It's a deep blue. It had tan leather. It also has a sunroof and it's 66 Porsche. That's really rare. I don't care whether you're talking 911 or
Who wants
912.
that? Just chance to leak. It's going to leak.
Yeah, I know. It's a chance to leak, and not only that, it's electronic one. So
Oh,
there's a chance
God.
for mechanical problems as well as leak. But hey, this car sold for 73.5. That's right exactly at our number two. it was, we have a number one at 95. We have a number two at 73. So, I mean, it's right on the button, right where it should have been. It's probably a two minus, so it's probably, or maybe a three plus. So it's probably a little bit more expensive than our price guide said. But I kind of like the fact that after one gets away for 200, another one brings the party down a little bit back to the level that it
Okay.
might have been expected.
So you're saying there's two very similar cars, a week apart, one sold for crazy money, one sold for right about what you'd expect money, and who the hell knows why, right? This
No,
is
no, no.
unpredictability.
You're wrong. You're wrong again, Larry. There was an exceptional car that sold for 200,000. There's a really nice car that sold for
Oh,
73. So, and interestingly, this only had 14 bids on it, which is,
oh,
kind of, you see these bring a trailer sales, especially where there's 7,300 bids, whatever. Not really, but the first guy has to bid $912 because it's a 912. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyhow,
that
and then
was
the
you.
next
We
bid, of
know it was
course,
you, Dave.
yeah, no, I bid the $2,912. So no, but it's I think it's no sign of the market falling. It's just that it's a reality dose that we
Sure.
all need to get every once in a while.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of reality dose, that means opportunity. It's another one on Bring a Trailer. It was a 1991 Mazda Miata. This thing only had 21,000 miles on it. It sold for less than it cost new, which was 12,500. These were about 14,000 new. And I can't, these Miatas are punching bags. And we don't realize how good we have it with these Miatas, and they're not cherished in a way they should be. I am biased. I've owned 7 of these things. I've raced them. They're super durable. I have one right now. Every time I get in it, it's a kind of a junker car, but the steering feels connected. It has this fluidity. The gearbox is right, mechanical, the sound, the joy, an amazing, fun, reliable car for 12.5. I don't know, Dave. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this is a good investment. I'd rather have this than gold.
Yeah. Well, you see, I just told you what I did with gold. I've got a couple coins that I'm looking at that are worth exactly what I paid for them a long time ago. Anyhow, at $12,500, this is a smoking deal. This is a smoking deal. This is a 21,000 mile red tan or red black. I don't remember now. MX5 Miata 5 speed. It's got it all. This is the type of thing that you can do whatever you want with. You can have it as a Sunday driver. You can keep it as a show car. Like you said, you can rally these things. You can track them. You can do whatever you want. If the epitaph had to be read for the Mazda Miata, which thankfully we don't have to do it yet, it would have been, "This was the classic '60s British sports car done right."
Yeah,
In
perfected.
other words, I mean, it was just, they're unbreakable, compared to compared to British sports cars. You can use them as reliable dailies. I mean, they're just awesome things. We have a number one at 29.8. We have a number two at 15.9. We have a number three at 8,400. This thing sold for a three plus price, and it's absolutely a two car.
Yeah, I mean,
So somebody got a deal.
one of the things you can tell, a couple tells that I've learned over the years from guys like you, Dave, is you check out the pedals. You see what
Yep.
the wear on the rubber is. Sometimes that'll tell you if the mileage is. But on these Miatas, one of the key things is the blackness of the seat fabric.
Yep.
Because if it's
Oh
left
yeah. Yeah.
outside, it'll fade, and
Yep.
you can tell they look gray because, of course, the ones on mine are gray. And I don't think you can get the fabric anymore. But like we said, these Miatas, if they suddenly went away today, we would be crying like babies tomorrow. So go out
Really.
and get a Miata for 12,000
I
bucks.
it's kind of like everybody who's a car guy should also own a Miata. It's like,
Yes.
you need a, it's like having a bedliner in your truck. You need a Miata in your garage just for the same reason. By the way, I've seen your Miata seats, and I thought they were green with the mold from leaving them outside, but you must have cleaned them. So
Yeah. So okay. So Miata, we said it. The next car, I think the right owner would not be able to fit in a Miata, and that's Mr. Uncle Buck. If you've seen that movie with John Candy, his car was a. I don't think it was this exact car, but it was this. It's a 1977 Lincoln Continental, and this is
yep,
one you picked up. It's this weird peach color. It's sold on Barrett Jackson or at Barrett Jackson for 26,500. How do I live in a world, Dave, where Miata is only worth 12 and this Lincoln is worth 26? Is this pound for pound? Is this what we're at? Is this what?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's pound for pound. By the way, this is not peach. This is champagne,
Oh,
man. I
sorry.
mean, it's a Lincoln. Come on.
Look at the orange
So
on it.
anyhow, yeah, it's kind of grape champagne. You take your champagne, you pour grape juice in it. And that's the color you get out of this thing. This was Mickey Gilles' '77 Lincoln Continental Mark V. Now, I know that you've owned a cowboy hat at one time in your life, and you had cowboy boots. The reason why was because of a movie called Urban Cowboy.
John
Okay,
Travolta, right?
John Travolta. That's exact. Oh, I'm sorry, Travolta. I keep forgetting. Anyhow, John Travolta was in the movie. It was kind of a cool story. It was actually a story in Esquire magazine that I read before it was a movie. So it was a very cool story about basically these guys who became cowboys at night. They might have been stockbrokers
Wait,
during the
these are
day.
dancing cowboys. They're not
Oh
cowboys.
yeah, yeah, these are line dancers. Anyhow, Mickey Gilly owned Mickey Gillies, which was Gillies was the place where the movie was filmed and kind of where all that stuff happened. And if you see a line dance, from the 1970s with Texas line dance, it's probably taken place at Gillies.
Wait, are you suggesting Dave, nobody knows who Mickey Gilly is? That had no who cares about this
Okay,
car?
I
Tell
want
me I'm
somebody to
wrong.
put something. Okay, it goes in the comment section. Larry's wrong. Dave's right. I know
Oh,
who Mickey Gilly is. Okay, a country star. And
but you think
it's so beyond you.
okay, is
Anyhow,
that why this car with the dirty engine bay sold for this much because of that star power? Is that what you're
sold
suggesting?
sold for 26.4. That is right above our number two. Yeah, you're right. It is not a number two condition. We have a number one at 35 too. These things are land yachts. Obviously, they don't do anything but kind of look awesome to some people. Not necessarily to me, by the way. Mark Fives are not a performance car. This is an interesting piece of history. The name of the color is Rose Diamond Fire. Isn't that great? I mean, you can't get that on Mazda. They don't make Rose Diamond Fire. Anyhow,
I think it's a
this
strong price. Well sold.
okay. Well, we're having some fun. Obviously, this is at Barrett Jackson. They sell a lot of cars like this,
Yeah.
and they did a good job. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be hurt at 26.4. It's a great story. We
Mm.
just spent 2 minutes talking about it, so there you go.
All right. Nobody under
It's
60
it's
knows
had
it.
its moment of fame, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right, next, there's another one from the Barrett Jackson auction that you wanted to talk about. 88 928 S4. This, if you want to talk about movies and Hollywood and celebrity, of course, nobody really care about the 928 if it wasn't for that movie. What was the name of that movie? It's
Risky business.
right, and this one's especially cool because the last version of the 928, the S4, had the 4 valve per cylinder heads, and this is a super rare one because it has a manual transmission and I want to say 47 grand is what this sold for. This was a deal.
I think so too. Didn't they make a GT after they made an S4
A
though?
GTS, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, GTS. Yeah, yeah, whatever. Anyhow, yeah, we had these at number one at 93, at number two at 69, and number three at 39. So this thing was between a two and a three price. It was a 5 speed, which is really important in these cars. Again, when the history books are written, these cars were never given the love when they were new that they should have been given. They're absolutely great cars. They do have problems with, I call it the second or third owner syndrome, basically the third owner of the car bought it for almost nothing and didn't have money
Yeah.
to repair it after it was out of warranty, and they were not cheap to repair when they're out of warranty. Now the good news is a whole bunch of them have given their lives and become parts cars, so there's a lot of parts around
I
for
know
these
that
things.
there
So
may be parts, but I can tell you a quick story. I was one of those owners who couldn't afford one and bought it for 3 grand. And
yeah,
it was a pretty rough one. I love the shape. I mean, they're not my kind of car
yeah.
because they're very cruisery types. They're really open highway cars to go on long trips. It's not really what I do, but I just love them. I think they're cool. The fuse box is about 2 feet long, and it's a footwell. And I took off the cover, and all the relays are there and everything. And then I looked in the back because they say the poles get rusty on the relays, and so stuff doesn't work for in odd ways. And you jiggle things around, and it gets grounded, and it works. Anyway, all the wires in the back of that thing were all the same color, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm never gonna figure this thing out. I don't have enough time." So I quietly passed that on to the next owner as quickly as I
the those cars were needlessly complicated, like a lot of
so
German
cool though.
cars are. A friend of mine bought one new. Was on a like kind of a construction zone in DC, ran over a sewer top, and took his air conditioning compressor out.
Oh,
So yeah, they were not fun in terms of repair ever, but a very cool car. And I mean, look, you're not going to be driving that thing as a daily, so it's a great. You're right. It's a GT car. It's not a boulevardier. It's a lot more than that. But
well, yeah.
they're not getting they're starting to get all the love. So
One
that's
other
good.
way to look at it was, Porsche put a ton of resources into the 928 because it expected that car to replace the 911,
Yep.
which of course we didn't do. And you would know as probably I do. I from the guy's name who was running Porsche, who went in and said, "Are you kidding me? We're bringing the 911 back." Was an American.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
we have an
Exactly.
American to thank that the 911 is still here.
Yeah, well, hey, we won't go the Germany and the American story because it gets complicated if we go further back. But yeah, you're absolutely right. He was an American exec, came in and said, "This is what we're doing," and saved the company basically.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yay us.
So we were talking earlier about the Hagerty market rating going down. Here's a sale that suggests the really high times are still with us. It's a 91 GMC Syclone. It sold on Bring a Trailer for $90,000. These were essentially, if memory serves, Dave, they had the Buick Grand National Turbo V6 in an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive small S10 pickup, right?
Yep, 4.3-liter V6, four-wheel drive. They were all black with black. They made a Marlboro edition, which was kind of funny because nowadays you couldn't make a Marlboro edition of anything. But this is not one of them. This is the black with black, 6,000 miles, 90 grand against our number one of 50,600. Now, keep in mind that when this truck came out, everybody was saying something pretty special about it. It was faster than the 308 Ferrari.
Oh
So
yeah,
if you
they were
wanted
quick.
a car faster, a lot faster than a Ferrari, you'd buy a GMC. They got a cool ass look. Okay, I mean they always have had this kind of not unfriendly look, but kind of all business look, and I think that really helped out a
Oh, and
lot.
they're shockingly small. You forget how small mini pickups were in the late '80s, early '90s. I mean, this car is smaller than today's Honda Accord.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's Ford Ranger size,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And so, yeah, 90 grand, good for them. 6,000 mile example. I think they sold one recently, another one for like 20 grand that had all the miles on it. So, this is another example of a very special car getting a very special price.
Yeah, it's really funny because they were sort of cultural touchstones, right? It was the
Yeah,
Buick Grand National was this oddball turbo insanity in an era when horsepower was just coming back. So of course, car people always remember it. And this thing was even weirder. This is General Motors doing something that we always wish they do, and here they do it. The bummer for me with these is it's still an S10, and that means it's an S10 with the cheapest plastic interior you can buy inside it. So
it's an S10 in drag. There's no doubt
right,
about it.
it
So,
is.
yeah.
But it just speaks to, the special cars, the rare cars with a great story are still fetching, I think, really big money. Well, let's switch gears and let's go to the kicking tires and talk about some auctions that are coming. You have highlighted this thing that, Dave, I think I get to know you, and then you do something here so monumentally stupid. You've highlighted this thing called the Stutz Blackhawk, and I'll just let you dig your grave on this. Tell me.
Monumentally stupid?
I know. The writer
Monumentally?
in me should come up with something more clever than that, just the
Yeah.
sledgehammer, but that's all I got right now.
Okay, well, it's early in the morning. What can we say? Hey, look, a 71 Stutz Blackhawk is different than every other year. Now, this is the year with the split windshield, so you can see them immediately. It's got like the cars of yore, the cars of olden days. They were built by a different coach builder than built all the rest of the Stutz Blackhawks. This car supposedly has an Elvis Presley connection. It was said to have been given to his physician Elias Grantham, which is not Dr. Nick. And if you've seen the movie, you know who Dr. Nick was, not he was Dr. Feelgood, I guess. But
Dave, I'm not over 60.
anyhow,
I don't remember any of this. Sorry.
yeah, okay. Sorry about that. Well, you could have watched the movie. I watched it last night on the airplane out here to Seattle, where I am today. So, it's a pretty good movie, by the
Wait,
way.
wait, can you back
Anyhow,
up? Wait, back up for a second,
yeah,
because
yeah,
this is
yeah.
we wouldn't even be talking about this thing if it was not for the Stutz Bearcat, which was a car made in the teens that was really like the first super sports car. I've never driven one, but people explain it to me as like, look, it was a McLaren F1
Yep.
of its day,
Yep.
which was what, 1915, 1914. Is that fair?
Fair enough. Stutz had a great name. I mean,
Okay.
they were a great car. This has nothing to do with the earlier Stutz. They brought the name back. This was a Virgil Exner design
What?
for this thing. Yeah, Virgil Excess designed this, so it was kind of cool. Um, this car also shows 31,000 miles. It's a V8. Obviously, this thing was built on what, an Oldsmobile chassis, I think, or Pontiac chassis. Sorry about that. It's got a Nardi wheel, all that sort of stuff. But let's wait and see what happens. This is coming up in Mecum. We have a number one. Are you sitting down? Are you standing up? Are you sitting down? We have a number one for the
All right.
71 only at
Ah,
$242,000, my friend. A number two, 189, a number three, 156, a number four, 112. If it's not a 71, you can kind of cut the first number off of it, and that's more accurate. I guess a really, really nice later Stutz is probably about a $70,000 car, something like that. I know that that these things last forever. So somebody in 2087 is going to be listening to this podcast, while they're cruising through space or something, and they're going to say that guy Kinney was right, because you know what? These things they're basically the Talbot Lagos. They're Delages
no,
of their
Dave,
day.
you're going too far. Knock it off. Knock
Okay,
it off.
everybody calls them a pimp mobile, but guess what? That's what the Delages and the Talbot Lagos and the Delahaye's were, my friend. So there we go. Now, obviously, no race history, none of that stuff. This is just pure luxury. But I think these cars are so much fun. And if you're going to have a Stutz, have a 71. So
Oh my
there we go.
gosh, it's what I love about the car world, right? Here I do. I think I know everything, right? I've been writing about cars, talking about cars, basically my whole life. And here's this Stutz Blackhawk that is valued and wanted enough that they're worth almost $250,000. I mean,
This one isn't, okay? I will say that
okay, this it's
this is not a really nice one, but if the Elvis connection comes true, then Graceland would be interested in buying this maybe. So who knows? I mean, Elvis bought a lot of cars,
I know,
by the
yeah,
way,
yeah.
and I mean, he didn't own a lot of cars, but he bought a lot of cars because he gave them away. So maybe that was
But
the
this
connection.
is potentially a six-figure car.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I have a dealer friend who I know would pay not in the six figures, but close to it for something like
Oh my
this.
gosh, so interesting. I mean, it is everybody's got their jam. I mean, this is that kind of
So
Baroque style, right? You'd
yeah,
expect
flat Baroque, right?
yeah, I mean all right. Well, thanks for teaching us all, Dave. I remain trying to be open-minded on this one, even if it's not my cup of tea. So let's see. We'll have to circle
You're,
back. The one that's
you're welcome, grasshopper. You're welcome.
the one that's definitely on my radar, more my speed, is this is for sale on a site called Marked, and it's a 1983 Lancia Delta Integrale Evo 1. Anybody who loves the Group B rally cars of the late 80s, and Dave, who loves cars, doesn't love Group B cars? This was the production version of the Lancia race car. It's got flared fenders. It comes from Italy. It's got a turbocharger, a stick shift. I what else do you oh, it's four-wheel drive. It's right now sitting at 29 grand. I just it's white,
Yeah,
so it probably hides maybe body imperfections. I mean, I'm just feeling melancholy because I can't bid on it, but I love these things.
yeah. Who doesn't? I mean, we have a high on these things at 171, 122 for our number two. Number three is 72.2. And our number four is 37. So it's closing in on our number four. And it's got, what, 6 days to go in the auction at Marked. A lot of these cars are now sneaking into our country. They weren't allowed in when they were new because they weren't federally, homologated, or, we didn't have the safety stuff done to them. So we're seeing a lot of them coming into Canada, a lot of them coming in now. Um, I think this car is going to definitely do six figures. Don't you?
I do. I mean, and well above it. I think in the car community, there's just high recognition for the significance of these. They're really fun to drive. I believe, they have turbo kick. There's enough newness to them. I think late 80s Italian build quality is probably a little bit problematic, but it'll overcome it. And as you've said so many times, the generation that the Gen Xers are now starting to get in their prime earning years, and these are the cars they're going to want. So
Oh
I
yeah.
think this this could be a bull market car. I usually resist putting something like this on it because there's not that many in the country, but I'm seeing more and more of these. Our friend Tim McMahon just sold one.
Right.
It seems like folks are they have they're brave about just importing cars from overseas. It seems to be more common than it ever was. Maybe the shipping.
No, the shipping's more expensive than it's ever been right now, but it is easier to bring them in once they've passed that 25-year rule. So that's where they are there now. And of course, Americans will spend and pay up for good cars. North Americans, so Canadians have been doing it for a long time. They have a 15-year rule where we have a few extra years on it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
One thing I didn't
I'm
do, Dave,
interested.
which I should probably explain. The reason they call them Group B cars was it was a special set of regulations in the mid 80s for the World Rally Championship. And what they've always tried to do is use production based cars so the manufacturers can have a good excuse to spend money to go racing. So they had to make a certain number of these, and the classification was Group B. And so the manufacturers wanted to win. The rally meant that they started producing more and more higher performing street cars. So then they could turn them into race cars. And it just created these wacko things. The E30 M3, was rallied, but then you had the MG Metro R something, the Audi Quattro Sport. There was a later version of the Lancia that was just a two-door one. I mean, all kinds of fascinating fast cars came out of that era. And I think they're all going to be hugely collectible for as long as I'm alive.
Yeah, I
That's
think
my
you're probably
statement.
right. There's a great cars. I mean, and once again, you can win the car show. Just show up in this thing. Just driving down the street, you're going to meet new friends because at every stoplight, they're going to either want to challenge you, which would be really, really stupid, or they're going to want to know more about your car.
I think,
So,
yep. Speaking of making friends, I think you're going to make a lot of friends with our last sort of kicking tires car we're going to watch, and it's a modified 1983 BMW 533i with a manual. It's got 6 days left on a Bring a Trailer auction. It's already at $12,000. It looks like a really well done car, Dave. I don't know. This might.
yeah, actually, I'm gonna not say the Franken car thing. It's got a replacement swapped 3.4 liter inline six K27 turbocharger, 170,000 miles, which of course we all know in BMW world is, again, a very reasonable number because these cars got driven and driven and driven. At 12 grand, it's an absolute steal. It's not going to go for 12 because it's got 6 days to go. I don't know what this thing's going to go for. You got any feeling?
25. I mean, it's just sort of like the small block equipped Carrera. This is a BMW sedan, so it's not super sporting, but again, I think there's nostalgia for these cars because the 80s. Well, again, back to the Gen X. This is when the BMW became the aspirational luxury car for people instead of the Cadillacs and the Mercedes because they were sportier. They weren't so stodgy. And the 5 Series that they eventually made into an M version just has that crisp German look. And this car, maybe 25 is too cheap. I mean, if you really look at the photos, this is a proverbial you could eat out of it. And they've done all kinds of interesting details, like they put a black crackle finish on not just the valve cover, which is pretty common, but also the thermostat. And it suggests that this is a real attention to detail. May I say, anal retentive builder or owner or both. And those are the cars you want to buy for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I didn't get the normal, this was put together in five or six guys' garage
Yeah.
vibe when I was looking at this thing. So that's a good call on your part. And I think you're right. Well, I think you're low on price. I think
Oh,
this thing's
really?
going to
Yeah.
do I think maybe mid 30s could be done on this. I don't know for sure, but with the kind of quality of the photos and the discussion so far has been pretty good about the car. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about the '80s cars is, they were just getting the fuel injection systems working, where it was a feedback system where you actually had oxygen sensors where the computer could react to. They were also had the fuel. I don't think the octane was super high, so a lot of these cars had pretty low compression ratios, which means that you can add boost in a pretty safe manner. Now we don't know what the boost pressure of this is. I haven't read it. Maybe if you saw 25 psi of boost, it would put the alarm bells off, but it's something reasonable at like 8 to 10. This could be a very powerful car in the right way. It's not just a huge pop, but just a linear kind of additive pull throughout the rev range. And then, you'd want to know if the turbo, which takes some of the exhaust energy, did it kill the sound of these straight six have, which I always like. But all the other stuff's really good. That and the shifting, the gearbox, the seats, the ergonomics. And the funny thing about these cars, they didn't have all these tons of safety features we have today. They're not that heavy. So this could be a real sleeper fun sports sedan. So I hear, Dave, you're going to be bidding on it, is what it sounded like. So I will be
No, I don't. I
right
don't think
on.
so. I always think about the first owners of these cars, and the first owner was probably a dentist or a doctor or an attorney somewhere. Maybe in
Don't
Atlanta. And
stereotype. Don't do that,
yeah,
Dave.
no, no, no. He or she bought this car because it was a nice, luxurious sedan, right? And so, she's been driving this thing for maybe 80,000 miles, trades it in, let's say, and then all of a sudden, the second owner maybe uses it for the same thing. Then the third owner says, "Ha ha! Here's my platform. Here's what I'm going to do," which is kind of cool because this car's had 2, 3 lives now, which is hey, talk about ultimately recycling things. I mean, it's had use for 170,000
You
miles.
need to write the country song, "The Sad Hard Life of an '83 BMW."
I'll throw in a dog and a train, and let's see, mama, and what else do we need to make it into a country song?
All
Absolutely.
right, I look forward. Next episode, we'll hear it. Let's move on to our next segment. We're going to answer some questions. Robbie from Vero Beach, Florida says, I've been to about a dozen collector car auctions, and sometimes the auctioneer announces the current bid, while other auctioneers announce the next bid, the one that they want. What what gives? What's going on? It's a good question. I don't
All
know.
right. Well, here's your basic difference. That's the British style versus the American style. The British style auction is going to, so like a Bonhams, for example, they're going to say, "I'm looking for 30,500. We're looking for 30,500." Whereas the American caller would say, "I have 30,000. I have 30,000." So one of them, the American style, gives you the current bid. Well, the British style gives you the next bid or what you're going to be bidding. So it's interesting because if you look in the catalog sometimes, or if you look on their website, for $100 they'll move the if something's selling for $100, they'll move it $10 at a time. $1,000 they move it $100 a time. 10,000 they move it at 1,000 at a time. And then when it gets
That's
into
not
the
always the case, though. Sometimes they make
it should be. It's what they try to do, but people will say, they'll give them a sign with a chop in it, so it's half. So in
no,
other
I don't
words,
know what that
I
means. The chop means you're
okay,
going to do half of the increment.
exactly.
Oh,
So somebody's at 30,000 and the next bid is 31, for example, they'll give them a chop sign and that's 30,500. It doesn't always get interpreted that way.
wow.
And everybody has their own way at auctions, but it's the British style where they're asking for the next bid, and the American style is what they're giving you the last bid. So yeah, it's a little bit of difference. It's real subtle. Congratulations on picking up on that. This guy has been to a couple auctions before,
It
so
makes me scared to go to a live auction. Like I'd be the little guppy the sharks are going to eat up.
yeah, you would. Yeah, you would. So no, it's look, I mean, it's exciting. That's part of the auction. I mean, that's
Okay.
they get you going. I mean, the adrenaline starts running, and I love it when they say you're the winner. No, you're the person who just paid the most. If you want to think of yourself as a winner, that's cool. But here,
It's a
there
competition, Dave. It is.
there's 30,000 people, between the people watching online and the 3,000 people in the room, maybe. And are you the ultimate dummy, or are you the smartest guy out of 30,000? Who knows?
Duh, I'm always the smartest. We know this. I mean,
Oh,
not
okay.
even a
All right.
question.
Good.
But
Good.
it's interesting though because the next question, Tom from Mesa, Arizona, he's basically same as me. He's an auction virgin. He says, "What are the rules and tips that he should know?" Dave, you don't want to tell him, do you? You want to just take advantage of us, don't you?
Yeah. No. 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 I want everybody to have the same chance. Hey, listen. If you're going to your first auction, for goodness sakes, don't bid.
Oh,
Leave the checkbook behind. There's auctions. Deals at auctions are like trains. There's another one coming down the track next time. There's always going to be a good buy at an auction. There's always going to be lousy buys at auction. Sit, watch, see what's happening, see who the bidders are, see who the auction callers are, the auctioneers, but also look at all the people in the audience and the people who are working. With they're called bidders assistants is the nice way of putting it. The people who walk around and look for people in the audience who are bidding. It's a circus, and it's meant to be a circus. It's meant to be high activity. It's meant to be loud in most of the American auctions, very, very loud. And it's meant to like fill up all your senses. So, you know, the very best thing to do is watch and watch and watch. Go to 2 auctions, go to 3 auctions before you bid on something. Because if you go to your first auction, the other thing you can do is go to a farm sale, or go to a household
Those are
goods
really
sale or
fun.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun to watch. They don't cost anything. You buy the hot dog from the hot dog vendor for a buck. I mean, it's a lot of fun. You get to meet people, but you also get to see, an auction in action. And I love auctions. I love everything about them. But it's kind of like saying you love going to rock shows or you love going to whatever. It just depends. It's excitement, and
I think they're
but whatever
super
you,
fun. I've I've
yeah,
I've I've been sitting in them, and, it's fascinating. Sometimes I've been to the high-end ones, and someone's bought a car that's tens of millions of dollars that doesn't come up for sale but once a generation, and I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh my gosh, all this money's traded hands," and the room is pretty quiet. Like, nobody's jumped
yeah,
up, "Yes! I wanted this car my whole life, finally!" And I've always thought how interesting how subdued it is, but some auction houses are very much like a circus barker. So,
yeah, yeah,
Scottsdale is
yeah.
coming up, the auctions in Scottsdale in January is coming up, and I always tell people, "Just go to every auction there because it has kinda every flavor you could want, and it
Yep.
is kind of its own thing," right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Barrett Jackson, we were talking about a couple cars that they had sold earlier.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great, great show. I
It's a
mean, you can buy floor mats, you can buy, ladder for your house. They have all the vendors there, all that sort of stuff. It is like a state fair in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, and it's a lot of fun. They have a huge auditorium. Sit in one of the back rows. I'll give you another piece of advice. If you see your friend, don't wave at him. Okay, I mean, I love that people see their buddy and they wave at them, and there's an auction going on. Okay, like the auctioneer should know that if you're sitting in row, ZZZ
Yeah.
nosebleed section, that unless you're looking at him and waving your arms at him and or her, then you don't want to. You're not bidding, but every once in a while things get confusing and people get confused. However, go enjoy. Do not bid at your first auction.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason there's a line to get into the Barrett Jackson auction in Arizona because, to your point, it is fun. It's just open commerce. It's making a market in front. There's no question. So hopefully those tips helped you. Don't wave. Keep your hands at your side, I think is what you said mostly, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly,
Good, Dave. Very
exactly.
smart. You're brilliant. Once again, Dave, thank you very much.
Uh,
Well, it's certainly been an interesting week. Dave, any final comments from you?
yeah, I would say that make a plan for the next 6 months, and if you like auctions, if you like them online, or you like them in person, make a plan to go to an auction, even if you don't go to a car sale. It's really great entertainment, and if you keep your hands in your pocket and your checkbook at home, it doesn't cost much at all to show up and have fun.
Yeah, well, for me, I would say please keep going to insider.hagerty.com where we're covering the market on a daily basis. We're trying to keep you informed. As we always say, these aren't investments. We're just trying to help you make good decisions. We sure hope you're enjoying this podcast. Help us, subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave your questions and feedback, especially on the YouTube version. Until next week, everybody, enjoy cars. Dave, thank you so much for your time. Bye bye, everybody.
Thank you, Larry. Take care.